And we're live. Good afternoon, everybody. It is Monday, August 10th. This is Rod with POW Group, and you're joining us in today for the Moneymaker Daily Update video. And you're going to join us on the pursuit of wealth. So if you're interested in starting your own pursuit of wealth, you can check out our YouTube page. You can subscribe. If you like the content, tick the little bell and you'll be notified of any future videos. And alternatively, you can also sign up for our online training community, which is based on Slack. You can check out our website at powgroup.ca or pursuitofwealthgroup.com. And you can check out who we are, what we do, the types of memberships we offer. So our most popular for $4.99 per month. And we also have a 7-day free trial available. So head on over to the website and check that out if you're interested. And before we jump into the charts, we had quite a few earnings on deck. So this morning, Canopy Growth stole the show. So for you MJ fanatics, it was certainly better than expected earnings report. So they said that their revenue was boosted from medical sales and cannabis 2.0 products. So they sold over 1 million canisters to different dispensaries across the country, and gained market share in that category as well as the top leading producer for cannabis 2.0 beverages. So we saw on Friday there was some notable weakness in Canopy Growth, and this morning pre-market the bulls gapped up about 10% on the news and the earnings, and they held most of the gains. They hit a new high of the day, but it did fade throughout the end of the day. I'll cover that a little bit more in detail in just a moment. So for tonight, Tilray actually missed. They had a loss. So they missed expectations. Tencent, who else do we have on the deck? Zoom Info. We'll check in later on those earnings when we have them. Tomorrow before open, I'm watching NIO. So that's an electric car maker play, and it was up about 2% after hours. So we'll see tomorrow before the open on how the bulls react to that. So diving into the charts, as the title of the video suggests, we saw a V-shaped recovery in SPY and QQQ. And basically anytime we see any meaningful pullback lately, we're just going to expect a V-shape, because that's all this market has been, is just V-shape after V-shape after V-shape. So we'll zoom in on the 5-minute here. So if we go back to the beginning of the day, we had a small gap up and we started to pull back from the 335 level, and we changed the 5-minute trend bearish. So we set a 5-minute lower high and lower low on a fairly significant and rapid drop. And that's when the bulls came in to play defense, and we saw that massive V-shaped bounce. And into the end of the day, we got a little bit of a chop action going into the end of the day. But overall, we closed flat, and no major red flags here yet for the bulls. The onus is on the bears now to jump in and prove and show us what they got. So jumping to the monthly time frame, I've highlighted this a couple of times now, but as you can see, the monthly RSI downtrend line is coming back into play here, and we're just barely trying to squeeze above that. So if we can get above that going into the end of the week, that will certainly give confidence to the bulls and longs in the market. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. If we look into the daily time frame, we can see that we haven't consolidated on the daily in quite some time. We have a gap down here to fill at the 330 level, and bulls are in full control. So we will expect a daily higher low at some point here in the near future. Not sure when, but one way we'll be able to find out is when we lose the hourly uptrend. So SPY is still in an hourly uptrend. So once we lose the hourly uptrend, we'll expect to see some daily consolidation. And when we break the low of the previous day, we'll be confident that the daily consolidation is underway. And as you can see, we finished the day with a hammer. So all good for the bulls. Moving on to QQQ. QQQ looking to set a daily higher low. So this is the first time we've seen any daily consolidation on QQQ since back here on July 30th. So we'll look at the hourly chart as our guide. You can see here we I'll zoom into the 5-minute. We also V-shaped on that break of 269.25, the low of Friday. We held that level initially, and the bears weren't proving anything, and the bulls showed up to play defense, but ultimately the bears were able to knock it down for a new low of the day, and daily consolidation still clearly underway. Then we set a 5-minute uptrend and basically went into chop zone toward the end of the day. So QQQ bears still not really proving much of anything at this point. The onus is on the bears, the burden of proof is on the bears, and they followed through. But as we know, we're not going to see any major correction in the overall markets unless we see all of the major indices and sectors pulling back together. So healthcare, the financial sector, the tech sector, and SPY itself and the overall S&P 500. So definitely bulls are still in control. We're seeing tech start to notably cool off and some rotation going into XLF. And the healthcare sector basically was flat all day long. And the energy sector actually saw quite a nice boost here. So it caught a bid here today. And that's what we'll typically see. So when tech starts to cool off, they'll rotate into other sectors, and that's going to keep SPY in a fairly intact uptrend, especially on the daily. We haven't consolidated in quite some time. So we'll be keeping an eye out throughout the rest of the week to see if any of the major sectors are moving in unison, and that will give us an indication of whether or not we can expect any consolidation. So moving on to crypto, I'll touch on this briefly. I did want to bring up Bitcoin here. All the other altcoins and the major top 10 aren't really doing a whole lot. They're basically following Bitcoin at this time. And this morning we had a nasty candle here. As you can see, we dropped $500 in a matter of 5 minutes. Just an absolute crazy candle here. So dropped almost 5% on that dump. And bulls played defense, another V-shape right into a fade for the rest of the day. But overall, bulls are happy with this. It's going to continue to be this way in crypto, unfortunately, because of the lack of liquidity and volume. So when we start to see, things like ETFs roll around and more institutional investments, we'll start to see a lot more liquidity in the market, and hopefully we shouldn't see these nasty drop-offs. But another reason why, when we don't establish any support on the way up, and we're BARTing around here. So for those of you that don't know what a BART is, it's quite literally what it sounds like. So you're basically going into a chop zone. You don't really form any support. You blast off on a 5-minute candle, and then you come down here, and it resembles that of Mr. BART. So moving on, like I said, we saw some consolidation. I did want to highlight RIOT. So RIOT had some earnings after the bell. It doesn't look like it was perceived as well. I haven't really checked into the numbers too much, but I, for one, certainly don't play earnings, especially in blockchain. It's quite the gamble. You never know what could happen with crypto overnight. So to swing a position like that is just not something I'd be interested in. We also have a gap down here, which will likely fill if we see a negative reaction leading into pre-market tomorrow. And keep in mind that Bitcoin's seeing some heavy sell pressure here up at the 12K level, which we're only $200 off at this point. So Bitcoin hasn't really consolidated in a meaningful way, and it could just be around the corner. The same with the broader market. So we want to always keep that in the back of our mind, and just keep in mind that if you are playing names like RIOT or Hive or other blockchain names, you want to be certain that you're using tight stops and that you're not getting complacent, because if Bitcoin or crypto, the whole crypto market in general, starts to pull back in any meaningful way, so a 5 or 10% pullback, just keep in mind that names like RIOT, they could easily see a 10, 20, 30% pullback given how hard they've run. So moving on, we have Canadian MJ. So we'll look at CGC. So as you can see, we had a huge gap up. We closed at around the $16 level, $16.60 level on Friday, and a huge gap up. It's very easy to see a positive reaction to earnings when you fade that that much into the end of the day on a Friday when your earnings are on Monday. So they didn't really have to beat by too much to create that big of a gap. But anyways, regardless, bulls were super happy to see that in the morning, and obviously they took some profit right out of the gate. And when SPY and QQQ saw some weakness, we started to pull back, and then we just kind of faded toward the end of the day. So for those of you that have been following the marijuana space as of late, you'll know that it tends to disappoint. So we want to, the onus is on the bulls. They got a lot to prove. We want to see them hold these gains and continue on a solid uptrend. And no major red flags, but we do have a fairly large gap here that may have to get filled. And we'll just have to keep an eye on the sentiment in the space. I did see that Hexo is going to be releasing their products with their joint venture with Molson Coors later this month. And they had quite a few different drinks available. I think they had the drops, and then they had 2 different flavored beverages, some soda water, and it looked really cool. So I'm excited to try those out and get my hands on a few of those. And they also have earnings coming up here in a couple of weeks, which their last earning report blew analysts' expectations out of the water. And we'll have to wait and see how the reaction is here from the product rollout. But I'm certainly interested in a long-term position in Hexo. Keep in mind that dilution has always been on the back of my mind with Hexo. You know, when a company is running out of money, dilution is always should always be in the back of your head. And with the Safe Banking Act not looking to get passed anytime soon, and it being hard for these companies to accumulate capital, it's certainly not out of the realm of possibilities. So just keep that in mind. Hexo has a lot to prove as well. So this would be one of your lower tier 2 companies in the cannabis space in Canada. So just keep that in mind. As for that, guys, I'm going to leave it there. So thanks for tuning in for a money market update, money maker update for the daily update video. And we will check back with you tomorrow, and I'll give you an update on any new developments with the Hexo beverages. And their Original Stash brand has been extremely popular, and I'm looking forward to testing that out. So have yourself a great night. Take care, and hope to see you on your pursuit of wealth very soon. Take care.